Okay, so here we have a question. You might get up to a question, and I'm calling this merit level, but this is just my definition of merit level, okay? It might not be officially the position of merit level, but it doesn't matter as long as you know how to do this so you're ready for level 1 next year. Okay, so factorize or factorising. Now, what is it? It's the key to this is in the wording. Factorize means it's dealing with factors. So, what are factors? Let's get a number like the number 6. And what I want to do is I want to find out what are the factors of 6. Factors of 6 are a little bit like you can make a diagram, anything that multiplies to get 6. So if I go 2 times 3, I can say, yep, 2 times 3, they will be factors of 6. If I go 6 times, let's try it again, another one, like a tree diagram, and I go 1 times 6, I go, yeah, that also multiplies to get 6, and that also multiplies to get 6. So they're all factors of 6. So how many factors does 6 have? Well, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, because 1 times 6 multiplies to 6, and 2 times 3 multiplies to 6. So it's got 4 factors there. Okay, so 12 would have 12 times 1. That would be factors, 12 and 1. 2 and 6, 2 times 6. 3 times 4. And I think that's all. So how many factors? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 factors. So you're saying what multiplies to get that. Now what would be if you're asked what is the highest common factor out of 12 and 6? Like, what is the highest common factor? Well, we looked at all the factors of 6. There they are there. And we looked at all the factors of 12. And we're going, what is the highest common one between 6 and 12? Well, 6 is the highest one on this side. And it appears on this side. So the highest common one between both sets would be 6. So if you're asked what is the HCI, highest common, HCF sort of question, what is the highest common factor of 12 and 6? The answer would be 6. Okay, so you can see what factors are, and you can see when you're asked a question, what is the highest common factor between two numbers, by just listing them. And there are other ways of finding out, okay? There's some more sophisticated ways. But as long as you know what factors are and what is a highest common factor, once you know that, we can move on a little bit, because I can teach you about what is factorising. Because remember, factorising is to do with factors. So you've got to know what a factor is, and then factorising isn't too hard. If you don't know what a factor is, it sounds impossible. It's almost impossible to solve, because you really don't know what you're doing. Okay, so factorising is actually the opposite of what we've already learned earlier, which was expanding. So this here, when this expanding is when I try to get rid of the brackets here. So when I've got 6x plus 2, I want to get rid of the brackets and expand to get rid of the brackets. So I'm going to multiply everything inside the brackets by 6. So 6x is times x is 6x. 6 times x is 6x. And 6 times 2 is 12. So plus, keep the plus there because the plus doesn't go away, is 12. So now I have expanded. My answer is, when I've expanded it, is 6x plus 12. Now when you're asked to factorise, you're actually going from this here, which is expanded, back to having brackets. So you're going from here with no brackets to having brackets. Sometimes there's one bracket, sometimes there's two brackets, but two in a row. But that's a little bit harder, and later on we'll go into quadratic factorisation. But anyway, so it's the opposite of expanding, where we start with an expanded expression and we go back to putting brackets around it. So to do that, how do you do that? How do we go from here, back to here? So we know how to expand to get to here, but can I go back to there? Okay, the trick is in finding factors. So we've got 6 here, and we've got 12 here. Now what did I say? I said before we found the highest common factor of 12 and 6. What was the highest common factor of 12 and 6? It was 6. So if I have 6 and 12 like that, I'll put the highest common factor on the outside of my brackets. So I'm looking for the highest common factor, and I'm putting it on the outside. Now, if it can be letters as well. So just so you know, so if we've got one x here and another x there, then both of these, the 12x and the 6x, has a common x. So you'd put x on the outside as well, because there's x's in both of them. But since there's only x on this side, we don't have a common factor of x on that side, so there's not going to be an x on the outside. I'll do one of those questions in a minute. So 6, our highest common factor, not just any number. I'm not just talking multiples. I'm not just putting 2 on the outside like this. Okay? Because I'll show you what happens if I do it this way. So highest common factors on the outside, and now I've got to look at, and I've got to go, what do I multiply 6 by to get 6x, my first term? To get 6x, and I've got a 6, I have to multiply by x. So I'll put an x there. So the idea is 6 times x should give me 6x, the first term. Then I've got a plus there, so I'll put a plus. What am I going to multiply 6 by to get my second term, 12? And that would be 2. Do you see what's happened? I've gone from expanded back to having brackets. So this is now factorised. This is your answer. It's factorised. Now, some people might go, but 2 is a common factor of 12 and 6 as well. So I'll put 2 on the outside. Or even 3. I could put 3 on the outside, but I'll put 2. So I'll go 2 times something to get 6x. Well, 2 times 3x will get me 6x. Won't it? 2 times 3x will get me 6x. Yeah, I've got an answer. And what times 2? 2 times something to get me 12. Well, I could go 6. Now, some people will do it like that and go, yeah, I've done it. 2 times 3 is 6x, and 2 times 6 is 12, so I must have factorised it. But that would be wrong, okay? Because it's not fully factorised. How do I know? Because when I look at the 3 inside the brackets and the 6, there's still a common factor in there. There's still a common factor. 3 and 6 is the common factor. What's the highest common factor between 6 and 3? Well, it's 3. 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. So 3 should be put on the outside. So I should put 3 on the outside. Shouldn't I? So now I've got x there by itself. So I've put 3 on the outside. And I've had to get rid of the common factor of 2 times 3. So now I'm left with just 2 by itself. I've got 3 times 2 on the outside. And what's left in the middle? X plus 2. So what is 3 times 2? 6. Do you notice what's happened? It's ended up back to that answer there. So this would be correct because there is no common factor with x and 2. There's no other common factor. That's as simple as it gets, and we put the highest common factor on the outside, so that is your answer. Whereas here, back here, we have 3 and 6, and there's still a common factor between 3 and 6, so we have to put it on the outside. So you can't just factorise one step, you've got to factorise fully, which means there is no common factors inside the brackets. Okay, let's try another one so you can get the just sort of practice. Okay, say I've got, let's go 12 x squared plus, we'll do a minus this time. No, we'll do a plus 24x. Okay, so I've got a 12x squared and 24x. Now, what I want to do is look for, first step is I'll look at the numbers and I'll look for the highest common factor between 12 and 24. So I'm looking at the numbers first, and I'm looking for the highest common factor between 12 and 24. Now, I could list them and go 24 and go, that's 2 times 12, and I could list all the factors by listing them. Okay, I could do it that way. 2 times 12, 6 times 4, and I could list out all the factors of 24, and then I'll list all the factors of 12 and find the highest one. But by looking at it, I know that the highest common factor of 12 and 24 is 12, because 12 times 1 is 12, and 12 times 2 is 24. So I really didn't have to list all of them. I found it really fast. So let's put 12 on the outside of the brackets because it is the highest common factor of 12 and 24. Now we'll deal with the next one over, which is the x squared and the x. Is there any common factor between them? Yes. There is an x, there's an x and times x over here and an x over here. So there's one common factor, x. So we'll put an x on the outside. There's 2 x's here and 1 x here, okay? So there's one common x is just 1 x. If this had 3 here, I would go, well, there's 2 here and there's 3, so there's common factor is 2 of them. 2 of them. So I would be doing, so I'll just leave that for now. So anyway, let's put the common x, because there's an x there and there's 1 x there, so there's 1. So if I go 12x times something to get 12x squared, I just multiply it by x. So let's look at what happens. 12x times x equals 12x squared. Awesome. And then I'll go plus, because I'm looking at this here, plus. I'm going to go 12 times something. That gives me 24x. Well, it would just be 2, wouldn't it? Boom. 12x times 2 gives me 24x. Awesome. That now is our answer. Fully factorised. There is no common factor between x and 2. Okay? There's no common factor at all, so this is fully factorised, and when I multiply the 12x times x, I get back to my original question, expanded one, which means I've checked its answer. So that is what factorising is. Factorising is looking at a question that is like a question like 15. I'm going to do one more so you can really see this in action. Okay, try that. Okay, let's see. Right, so I'm expanded form and I want to put in brackets. So my very first step was what? Look for the highest common factor between 15 and 3. I work with the numbers first. Well, 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 5 is 15. So 3 is my highest. Okay, so I'll put 3 on the outside of brackets. It's going to go, here's my brackets are here, okay. Put them in. So 3 times, 3 is my highest out of 15 and 3. Okay, so put 3 on the outside. Highest common factor. Now I've got 4 x's there and 2 x's there. So there actually is, I could just go, let's put the highest common x's between both of them is 2 x's. Because I've got 2 x's on this side, and this one's got 4, which means that it's got at least 2. There's at least 2 in there. So there's 2 left over. There's 2 there and 4 there. So yeah, there's 2 there. So 3 times something equals 15. 3 times what? 5. Yep, cool. So 3 times 5 is 15. That gives me that part. X squared times something gives me x to the power of 4. So x squared times x squared will give me x to the power of 4. Boom. And now I've got a minus, so I've got to be careful. Got to put the minus in. Now 3x squared times something gives me 3x squared. Well, 3x squared times 1 will give me 3x squared. And that is factorised. Now you can check it. You should always double check it if you're not sure. You should go 3x squared times 5x squared gives me 15x to the power of 4. And 3x squared times minus 1 gives me minus 3x squared. So if you expand it, multiply, and it comes back to the same answer, you know you've got it right. You've done it. Whew. Okay, that's factorise. Hopefully you understand the concept that you're trying to find the highest common factor between numbers and the highest common between letters. And just to emphasize, if I've got 5 x's on this, 5 x's here, and I've got 3 x's here, the highest common factor between there is 3. There's 3 of them, and there's 5 of them, so there's at least 3 in there. Okay, so that means there'll be 2 left over once I've factorised. So the highest common factor is x to the 3, because there's x to the 5. Okay, so that's how that works. Hopefully that helps you and you sort of get the idea.